My name is Nanthasack, and I'm going to be doing my achievement standard 90857 and 90856 for English. And two films that I am going to be close viewing is Unbreakable and Sixth Sense, both directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan. Unbreakable is about a man named David Dunn and Elijah Price. David Dunn is a middle-aged man who works as a security guard for a football stadium, and he has his relationship with his wife is not very rocky, and he plans to move to New York, but ends up getting rejected. So when he comes on his journey back to Philadelphia, he gets into a train crash, and he ends up being the only survivor in the train crash. Also, he is the only man with no scars or scratches and whatsoever. Elijah Price is a middle-aged man with genetic disease, osteogenesis imperfecta type 1, which means that his bones are easier to break, and but that doesn't stop him from achieving his dreams to find his polar opposite, which happens to be David. And throughout the film, Elijah helps David to build his life back up and his relationship with his wife, Audrey, so that Elijah can find who he is in the world. And in the end, David finds out that Elijah is the cause of the crash and many other deaths. Sixth Sense is about a boy named Cole and Malcolm, who Cole is grows up with no father and no friends because of a supernatural ability, which he can interact with the dead or ghost, and that makes him act different than the rest. And Malcolm Crowe is a middle-aged man who has a very good relationship with his wife at first, but then after getting shot by his old patient, because he failed to help him, they end up disconnecting. And Malcolm helps special needs children like Cole to make themselves feel strong, and on the journey there are lots of challenges, both with Malcolm's marriage and his and helping Cole to overcome his fear of the dead. And at the end of the film, Malcolm ends up finding out that he is actually dead. M. Night Shyamalan has a very excellent skill to present what is on his mind and all his thoughts onto the screen and the film, so that and is very skilled at presenting suspense, fear, and emotions onto the screen, so that the audience can understand on a deep level of how the characters are feeling and how they react in different ways. And but in 2008, Shyamalan said it was a common misperception, quote, that all his movies have twist endings or that they're all scary. All his movies are spiritual and all have an emotional perspective. My first aspect is performance. Performance is made up of acting and their expressions and way of showing the audience how the character would feel. in the moment. In this scene, in these scenes, first two, Malcolm shows fear, confusion, sadness, and anger, because he finds out that he is actually dead, and in this scene is at the very end of the film is when Malcolm accepts that he is dead and passes away happily. Ooh. And in Unbreakable, David is sad, confused, angry, and because he finds out that Elijah betrayed him and only wanted to find out who he was in the world, and David built up a good relationship with him, but now has fallen, broken apart. So he is broken-hearted, and that helps me understand the character's feelings towards things that have happened through the movie. My next aspect is symbolism, but the main part that I'm going to be looking at symbolism is color, and color is about secret meanings, feelings, and warnings And in the first scene, in Sixth Sense, it shows that Anna is giving a present to her co-worker, which has a red rat inside, which symbolizes their love between each other. But also she's wearing a red coat, to show that it's a warning. And then right after that scene, Malcolm ends up seeing them before they kiss, and then smashes the window and walks off. And in the next scene, Anna is wrapped around with a red blanket to show her love for Malcolm, and it's a warning to show that after a warning of showing that Malcolm is dead, and right after showing that, he finds out that he's dead. And anything in the real world that has been tainted by the other world and it's become obvious that anything in the real world that has been tainted by the other world and is used to connote really explosive emotional moments and situations, and a scene that backs that up is this one, which is tainted by Malcolm after he tries to open it, and it is a red knob, which is tainted by the other world, which is presenting that Malcolm is actually dead. And in Unbreakable, it more focuses on the connection of the color to the personalities of the person, like how Elijah wears purple throughout the film, and when he's doing when he's committing the crimes, and Malcolm wears green to show his heroism and his good nature. And in the scene, David is reaching down, which is wearing a green hood, jacket, jersey, coat, while Elijah is wearing a purple coat, purple gloves, reaching from the bottom, which shows that he is evil, coming from the bottom, while David is coming from the top, which shows goodness. And they're on opposite sides, which means that they're not equal but not the same. And that helps me understand the plot and twist to the movie. Dialogue. In Sixth Sense, when Cole tells Malcolm that he sees dead people, after that it focuses on Malcolm which which I think is to show how he's talking more about Malcolm and yeah, and Unbreakable, when Elijah says, quote, "Do you know what the scariest thing is to not know your place in the world, to not know why you're here, and that's just an awful feeling." And then David just showing the emotions of the sadness, confusion, all that, because he is brokenhearted of losing his friend. And dialogue is a very persuading, if done right, it is a very persuading technique to use in a movie, film, so to change minds and convey power. My last aspect is techniques, which is going to be looking at framing, and framing helps better show thoughts, emotions, and secret meanings. And the first thing, Cole is framed by the school doors to show that he does not like school. He fits out too much. He stands out too much, and he just doesn't like being there. And in the second scene, he is Malcolm is framed by the windowsill after Cole tells him that he sees dead people, which even better shows that Cole is talking about Malcolm and that Malcolm is dead. And then this third scene, for Sixth Sense, Malcolm is framed by the door after he realizes that he is dead, and to show that they are separated, and a stairway to show that he is going to move on to a different path to heaven and to change. And in Unbreakable, David and Audrey are framed in different sides of the door frame, which show emotional, spiritually and emotionally of war, invisible war, so that they aren't connected anymore, and they are framed by the door. Yeah, and David is shot on a low angle to make him seem stronger, and dominant, and is on a stairway on a different path from Audrey. And Audrey is shot from a high angle to show vulnerability and weakness, and is still chasing after David, and trying to fix their love. And in the last scene, Audrey and David as the frames, and Joseph is the son, to show that they're connecting more and becoming more of a family. And in conclusion, what we've gone over helps to create, used in different ways to create the story of the characters and the scene and feelings of the character, and it helps us better understand the whole movie in one, and the characters all. And and if we were to look closer in this details throughout the movie, we would be able to figure out the ending and the twist, and that's something I like about M. Night Shyamalan's way of creating films. Thank you.